It may sound somehow ridiculous that sin, disease, and death can be healed through Christian Science. It need not be. Questions like, who made sin, disease, death, keep coming when such a statement is made. Who made sin, disease, and death? Where do they come from? Can me and you find freedom and healing from them? What is Christian Science? And how can we use Christian Science to heal sin, disease, and death? These are common questions that keep coming when such statement is made. Happily, the Bible and Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy offer us enough avenue of knowing that this is achievable. For in the book of John, it says, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Also, in the book of Genesis, it says, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Here we can see creation as established on a sense of perfection, where there is no sin, disease, or death. In other words, absolute sense of holiness, harmony, without any of these evils. Now, Christian Science, which teaches the existence of one infinite God as the only cause and creator, is based on these scriptures. That is to say, nothing like sin, disease, or death can be associated with creation. Creation was absolutely perfect. In other words, God made man perfect in his own image and likeness. And then, for us to be able to go further in seeing the way we can have this thing done or achieved, we now have to begin with God. Who is God? Then Mary Baker Eddy, the writer of this book, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, tells us in page 465. In this book, page 465, it came as a question. What is God? Answer: God is incorporeal, divine, supreme, infinite, mind, spirit, soul, principle, life, truth, love. You can see from this description of the nature of God, whom God is, he is not material in any way. He is not physical. He's entirely spirit. And he made man, me and you, in his own image and likeness. So when we are talking about man, we are talking about that man, men and women as created in God's image and likeness, and not the material man that has a beginning, that has an end, that believe of mind apart from God, of life in matter. When we know these things, then we can now be able to know that what Mary Baker described as the triad of errors, these things I named, have no creator whatsoever. God never made them. Therefore, they are unreal. And if they are unreal, they are powerless. They can't have any influence on me and you. In order to give us an idea of what the kingdom of God is, Jesus Christ gave a clear picture of the entire thing I'm saying in the book of Matthew chapter 13. He says there, he gave a parable to his followers about the kingdom of heaven. He said, a man sowed a good seed in his field, and when men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. And when the wheat sprang up and bare fruit, then the tares appeared. Mind you, listen to what I'm saying. He said, the man sowed good seed in his field, and when men slept, this you have to think about. When men left out all that they required to do, that sense of understanding, that sense of knowledge, that awareness, and fall back into slumber, mentally dark, completely ignorant. And then his enemy came and sowed tares. What are these tares? Sin, disease, and death. Then his servant asked, Master, who did this? His reply was, an enemy did this. Who then can we say to be the only enemy of truth? Error, evil, unreality, claiming to be something. Therefore, Christian Science recognizes the man God made in his own image and likeness and does not ignore these challenges, sin, disease, and death. Rather, it handles them diligently, correctly, in the best way, in a way that they are dealt completely with as absolutely nothing, powerless, non-effective. That's what happens when we are awake. These mental things, what it means is whatever happens to us comes from our thinking. Unguarded thought, we don't protect our thinking. We keep loose over everything, taking in whatever suggestion that comes our way without bearing it. But when we understand that God made man in his own image and likeness, and creation remains absolutely without any element of error, then we are now prepared to move forward and prove that sin, disease, and death are powerless, unrealities. Mary Baker said, disease is the image of thought externalized. That is to say, this is from where it is coming. When they are coming into our thinking, we remain careless without challenging them. And as they settle, they start pushing out in various forms and shapes in our experiences, giving us all kinds of headache. Then, having that understanding that God made man in his own image and likeness enabled me to prove that sin, that disease can be healed through Christian Science. I have a younger brother who lives in Cameroon with his family. He brought his children over to me during the long vacation, saying they should spend weeks with me. 3 children, aged 7, 9, and 13. Within a space of 5 days, the 3 all started showing signs of fever, vomiting, loss of appetite, serious stage of, So I live in Enugu alone with my wife and myself, just 2 of us. And then these children were before us. I called my wife and said, we are in for trouble. Now what do we do? The parents of these children are not here, and they are not Christian Scientists. What do we do? First and foremost, I decided to take them to the hospital. We took them to the best pediatric hospital we have in town. And then they were tested and confirmed that the 3 had malaria parasites in their body system. And immediate medical treatment was commenced. Within 1 week of their treatment, there was no sign of any change, no sign of improvement. Continuous vomiting, everything. Awful. Only at that time, one afternoon, I took a decision to put them into the care of Christian Science, having seen that material treatment has failed me. I called on the doctor and said, please come on, release these children to me. He was so surprised to hear that from me because he remained the best pediatric hospital we have in our university teaching hospital at that time. He was wondering where I was taking these children to. I said, all you need to do for me is to release these children for me. And he did. I took them home. When driving home, I was thinking about man, made in the image and likeness of God. Who is man? What is sin? What is disease? Then, the moment we came into the house, I called the three together, carrying the youngest on my laps. I called the elders. I said, my dear, you have seen what we've gone through. If I did not take you people to the hospital, your conclusion will be that we hated you people. And our decision might be to have you people die. But you can see medical treatment cannot do anything, cannot help us. And now, would you want me to try prayers? Oh, the elder said, Daddy, that is what we want. I immediately sat down. First, denied the reality to disease because God never made it. I appreciated, I instantly recognized man as God's image and likeness without any of these type of elements. Seeing that only God governs them. Whatever is not in God can never be in man. And these children remains God-receptive ideas, and therefore there can be no obstacle to their healing. When I was doing this, and I saw really I was unaware of sickness again. I was unaware of the high temperature of the one I was carrying. Then the eldest ran off within minutes and dashed into the kitchen. After a few minutes, she came back. Said, Daddy, do you know I have taken a cup of water and I'm not vomiting? Otherwise, had she taken a cup of water without that kind of, maybe in the hospital, she would start heading to the toilet to start throwing up again. But when she said that, I turned to her. She was smiling. The other one, the one 7 years, which 9 years that was standing, turned to her, looking at her, saying such kind of thing. It looked funny to her. She was equally laughing. I turned to the one I was carrying. She was sweating, something that never happened within the period they were sick. I was moved with so much joy, so much gratitude to God, because I saw healing had taken place. I saw disease proved as nothing, as powerless on the body of these three children. Therefore, what actually leads us into sickness is from our thinking. Beliefs in this and that, mind in matter, life in matter, other than spirit. Then, every phase of belief has its own type of influence on us in any form it lies, whether sickness or anything. And to heal that, to prevent that, we have to stay on the absolute understanding of the perfection of man, perfection of creation. And that is our safeguard, the allness of God. So when this happened, that strengthened my resolve about the reliability of Christian Science healing. I've been talking about healing sickness. What of sin? When we come to that, we now see the case of the woman that was caught in adultery, brought before Jesus. That woman was, to me, a test case. she was brought, the people that brought her came with two purposes. One, to rope in Jesus Christ over what will be his views, perhaps against the law of Moses that says a woman that is caught in that should be stoned. And again, to see actually if that woman, what really will happen to them and before Jesus. And then what actually happened. Then when they said, this woman was caught in adultery, this and that, that and that. But mind you, the law of Moses provided for a halfway measure of how to solve that problem of sin. Stoning a woman to death. When they were bringing the woman, the man that was involved wasn't there. That's a sense of kind of injustice. And before God, it is not right. And Jesus Christ bent down, asking them, of course, a question first. If any of you know you don't have sin, first cast a stone on her. And when he bent down to write, I wonder what he was doing when he was bending down. Some of us maybe say he just simply bent down. He was praying. He was looking deep into reality. He saw clearly the holiness of the state of man. How man remained God's own perfect idea, the woman and the people that brought her. In fact, that prayer healed all of them. That the men that brought this woman all started going away one by one. And finally, when he looked up and asked the woman, "Woman, where are thy accusers?" He said, "If none has condemned thee, I condemn thee not. Go and sin no more." Thus, Mosaic law provided for the destruction of life. But Christ's own law, the law of God, provided for the healing of destruction of sin. How do we destroy sin? By seeing it for what it is. Go beyond the individual or go beyond the situation and see the reality. That where God governs, absolute harmony, absolute peace, holiness. And that remained what Christian Science is pointing out for me and you through this book called Science and Health with Key to the Scripture, written by Mary Baker Eddy. What sin is just like dirtiness, death. No sensible person goes into his kitchen or her kitchen, seeing dishes, dirty dishes packed, and simply pushes them into the trash can because they are dirty. All you do is wash them clean, properly. Keep what is precious where it is. And what is wrong, what is not right, throw it away to where it belongs, into its native nothingness. Just a sense of belief in disease, sickness, or sin. That is to say, don't attach any element of error to the identity of any of us, yourself and any other person. Don't stereotype. This person is this man is that, this is this. That by so doing, you are recognizing that man God made like himself, without sin. I think it is equally the same for somebody to take a child full of feces, washed out, and then deciding now finally to throw away the child and the dirty water because of dirtiness. All the same thing applies. Clean up, preserve what is good, and throw away. That is sense of separation. Good and evil cannot go together. In no way. I have equally been opportune to use this method to prove that sin can be equally healed through applying the laws that are contained in this book. I live at a place in Enugu where you call Tinker's Corner. And it is still the same place that I'm living today. We used to have nightmares every night in the past 5 years or so. Once it was 5 minutes past 12, you start hearing firings. And by morning, you will hear a sad story about one thing or the other, either on an individual or the property. It continued like that. Then there were a series of meetings, casual meetings, people showing interest, and I was praying to know that we are all in God's kingdom, God's children, empowered to do good and not evil. I held on to that till one night it came to the head. There was firing that I was thinking they were just at my doorpost. I could not get the compartment to pray. I was so terrified that I walked around my house and sat quietly by the chair until after about 10 minutes before it dawned on me, yes, I have the right, I can control the situation by knowing the truth about the whole thing. Where am I? What is actually happening? Absolutely nothing. Because the source of such actions never came from God, and therefore they are nothing. They cannot be effective. They can neither come to me nor my neighbors. At that point, I started saying the Lord's Prayer, Thy kingdom come. The moment I made that statement, Thy kingdom come, I felt my statement. I felt that God was in control. God was actually governing everybody. I now saw those boys firing out there as God's own children. God never created armed robbers. Neither did he equally create victims of armed robbery. And that was so strengthening to me. And my fear went off. Quietly, I slept off. My wife came there and woke me on the seat just after 3 in the morning. I'm telling you, from that day till today, there has never been a shot in Tinker's Corner. My younger brother, who used to visit me, whenever he comes, and it is 5 o'clock in the evening, he will start driving out because of fear of the unknown. But today, Tinker's Corner has been seen as a place people can live without feeling any sense of danger. Therefore, I am telling you, my good friends, that Christian Science is indeed the avenue for healing these things. What actually is Christian Science? Let's begin there. What is it? And how can you use it? Because such question came up. God's own laws, the laws with which he governed his creation, the laws that kept everything in perpetual harmony, the laws of eternal peace, which when you recognize that it is the truth and it is real and it is operational, you will never move. Nothing will ever move you. Holding on to that, then you move on. Jesus Christ came and introduced these laws to us. His apostles operated that. I mean, when it is called, people even question why it is called science, why science should be attached to Christianity. But why shouldn't it be? It is the only science, if you don't even know. The science that enabled Jesus to walk on water. Without the law of gravity working on him. Healed people without material things. Raised the dead, and even culminated in his own resurrection and ascension. Then, his apostles did the same thing. The records are there in the scriptures. Eventually, when Mary Baker Eddy came up, as a result of her discovery, by way of the accidental experience she had, Christian Science healing, which Jesus Christ introduced, became renovated, recovered, rediscovered by Mary Baker Eddy. and given to me and you on a platter of gold. We now have it in this book. We can now read and know. What I'm telling you is, whatever you need to know is in science and health. Don't say, oh, I have not read so much, I am not knowledgeable, or this or that. She says, or even you don't have education. He says, we are all capable of more than we do. When that is the case, know that it is not you doing it, God is the healer. Therefore, you are only operating his laws, the laws that never fail in healing or solving any problem whatsoever. Yes, we are now so much overwhelmed by the presence of material technologies. These human auxiliaries that when they were not even discovered, the people that discovered them never knew they were working towards such type of development. And today they are holding sway in our affairs. But one thing is clear, they have limitations. They have limited influence on our lives. But science, that is Christian science, has overwhelming power over everything. The only power, the only knowledge, letting us know that we can be free when we apply God's absolute laws to our human situations. When we know this, we have to deal with fear, doubt, laziness, and ignorance, false beliefs of all types, to be able to withstand. If not because of this, I wouldn't be here today. I could have not been here, standing here and talking to you, because I know some 30 years ago, 30-something years ago, I would have been a person that we now be talking of when he passed away. To the medical authorities, they established, to them, it remained the fact that I wouldn't survive the experience I had in 1978. But when I had that experience, I turned back to the healings Jesus did. The raising of Lazarus, the raising of Jairus' daughter, and so many others, even the one Mary Baker Eddy did. To a woman, when you do read Christian Healers, page 229, you find a case of a young child who died before the arrival of Mary Baker Eddy. And when she came in, the mother was crying, oh, you came so late. You came so late. The child had died. But I must tell you, the child lived because Mary Baker Eddy came, applied the law of truth of Christian Science. The child was revived. So remembering that, in my own case, I said to myself, death is unreal, and I have to prove it. I turned and said, God, I am aware now that you made me in your image and likeness. And for that, I have no reason to die when you are alive. If you don't die, I have no reason to die. And that's it. When I was saying this in the hospital, people were saying, oh, this man's case is going psychiatric. We now have to look for a medical psychiatric doctor for him. But eventually, they came to realize why I made that statement and what I was even saying. In the course of that, I discovered that they were convinced, the medical authorities around there were convinced of what healed me. Because they started coming to me saying, please, Godwin, we now see that the power that healed you is beyond human effort. Please, can you help us? One of them told me, I have a terrible family problem. That God that saved you can heal and solve my problems. Well, I didn't know it was that time. That was a direct explanation of my own situation that you can now move into the field of Christian Science for healing. People now started demanding, when I was still wearing hospital dress, asking me to pray and heal them. In other words, to them, I was to die, but I refused. You can refuse to die even. You can say no to death by knowing that life is deathless. In this book, page 227, Mary Rebecca Eddy said, he said, Christian Science raises the standard of liberty and cries, follow me, escape from the bondage of sickness, sin, and death. Jesus marked out the way. Citizens of the world, not Christian scientists this time, citizens of the world, accept the glorious liberty of the children of God and be free. This is your divine right. You can rise to that and say no to death. Say no to disease. Say no to armed robbery or any of these kind of challenges. And then prove them powerless and unreal in your life and every other person's life. I've seen that so many times in my own experiences as a Christian Science practitioner. People call me, understanding that, applying what I know, I discover, we in common discover that yes, there's no power in disease. There's no power in anything erroneous, never from God. Therefore, I'm urging you to make use of this book, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. That is where Christian Science is stated in its best and clearest language. No other place. I advise you, as you read, put into practice whatever, no matter how little you know, put it into practice, not until you read the whole book. And I recommend to you, if you want to start reading this book, if you have not read it for the first time, please start from page 600. You see what impact it can make in your life. People that read this book, simply reading it, not this time working with practitioners or so, reading this book simply, work wonders in their lives. It can be so for all of us. Therefore, I urge you to now turn to it and the Bible to discover actually that sin, disease, and death can be healed through Christian Science. Thank you and God bless.